Ethan Hale had learned many things since humanity joined the wider galaxy, but patience was the hardest. The alien outpost of Kara Station floated between two dead stars, silent and cold. Its halls were clean, curved, and filled with rules written in lights and symbols Ethan still could not fully read. Every species here followed strict customs: where to stand, how far to look, when to speak. Even breathing too loudly could be taken as a challenge. Ethan was a human security liaison, sent to prove that humans could cooperate without causing trouble. That promise had already been tested. The incident happened during a routine escort. A visiting alien delegate panicked during a power fluctuation and activated a defense drone. Ethan stepped in without thinking. He pushed the delegate aside and took the hit meant for them. The drone was disabled seconds later, but Ethan collapsed to the floor, his side burned and bleeding. Now he lay on a narrow bed in the station's medical wing. The air smelled sharp and metallic. Soft blue lights pulsed above him, matching the slow rhythm of his heartbeat as translated by alien sensors. His injury was not life-threatening, but human biology confused the medical systems. Regeneration gel worked too slowly on him, and pain suppressors had strange side effects. "We recommend rest," the medical unit said in a flat voice. "Human healing improves during unconscious bonding states." Ethan frowned weakly. Bonding with what? A pillow. The unit did not answer. The lights dimmed further, signaling the start of a rest cycle. Minutes passed. Ethan listened to the hum of the station and the distant vibration of engines. He tried to sleep, but pain and unfamiliar gravity made it hard. He shifted, then froze when the door slid open without warning. An alien woman stepped inside. She was tall and slender, her skin a pale silver blue that caught the light like water. Thin markings glowed softly along her neck and arms, symbols of rank. Her eyes were large and dark, reflecting the room. She wore no armor, only a simple uniform. She moved with confidence as if she belonged exactly where she was. Ethan tensed. Wrong room." "No," she replied calmly. Her voice was smooth, carefully shaped for human ears. "This is correct." She approached the bed without hesitation. Ethan tried to sit up, then winced and fell back. "I'm injured," he said. "If this is another test, maybe wait until I can stand." She paused beside him, studying his face. "You are Ethan Hale, human, protector class." "I guess," he said, "depends who's asking." "I am Valera," she said, "tactical officer of Kara Station." That explained the confidence and the lack of concern. "I didn't know tactical officers doubled as nurses," Ethan said. "They do not," Valera replied. She glanced at the medical unit's lights. "However, the station initiated an old protocol." Ethan sighed. "Of course it did." She looked at him again, more closely now. "You diverted an active weapon from a non-combatant. You did not hesitate." That action triggered several observational flags. "Yeah," Ethan said, "I get that a lot." Valera stepped closer, then did something that made Ethan's tired brain stall completely. She sat down on the edge of the bed. Ethan stared at her. "Okay. I'm going to need you to explain this part very slowly." She tilted her head. "The protocol is called shared rest stabilization. It was designed for species that heal better in the presence of another conscious mind." Ethan blinked. "So, you're here to watch me sleep." "Not watch," she corrected. "Participate." Before he could respond, she removed her outer garment, folded it neatly, and placed it aside. Then she slid under the sheets beside him with calm certainty, leaving a careful space between them. Ethan's entire body went rigid, ignoring the pain for once. Valera leaned closer and spoke quietly, as if sharing a secret. "One bed, no rules." She closed her eyes. Ethan stared at the ceiling, heart racing. "No rules," he repeated softly. "That's not how most species describe medical procedures." "In my culture," Valera said, eyes still closed, "rest without rules builds trust. Trust stabilizes the mind. The station believes your species responds well to this." Ethan let out a slow breath. "And you're okay with this?" "Yes. You're not worried I'll do something stupid?" Valera opened one eye and looked at him. "If I believed that, I would not be here." That answer settled something in him. Humans were used to suspicion, fear, distance. This was different. "All right," Ethan said quietly. "Then I'll just lie here." "That is acceptable." Silence returned, broken only by the hum of the station. Ethan slowly became aware of her presence beside him, the warmth, the steady rhythm of her breathing, slightly slower than his. She did not touch him, but the closeness itself was grounding. His pain dulled. Outside the room, unseen by both of them, data streamed across observation monitors, heart rates, stress indicators, neural activity. Alien scientists watched in disbelief as Ethan's recovery metrics improved faster than expected. Inside the room, Ethan finally relaxed. "You know," he said after a while, "on Earth, this would be very confusing." Valera's lips curved slightly. "On my world, this would be considered extremely direct. Figures." She shifted a little, adjusting the space between them with care. "You are uncomfortable." "Not exactly," Ethan admitted. "Just surprised." "Surprise is acceptable," she said. "Fear is not present." "No," he agreed, "it's not." Minutes turned into an hour. Ethan felt sleep pulling at him, heavy and welcome. Just before drifting off, he asked, "Valera?" "Yes." "Why did you volunteer for this?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because humans confuse us," she said. "You break rules, yet protect strangers. You lack structure, yet show restraint. I wish to observe you without barriers." Ethan smiled faintly. "Careful, that's how friendships start." "Then perhaps," she said softly, "this protocol is more effective than intended." Ethan closed his eyes. For the first time since arriving at Kara Station, he felt truly at rest. And somewhere deep in the station's systems, a simple conclusion was forming. Humans did not need strict rules to remain honorable. They needed trust. This was only the beginning. The lights of the medical chamber shifted from deep blue to soft white as the rest cycle ended. Ethan woke slowly, his body heavy but no longer burning with pain. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then he became aware of steady breathing beside him. Valera was still there. She lay on her side, facing away from him, silver blue skin catching the morning glow. She had not moved closer during the night. There was still space between them, carefully kept. Yet Ethan felt different, stronger, calmer, as if his body had remembered how to heal. The medical unit chimed. Recovery progress increased by 38%. Human subjects stabilized. Ethan let out a quiet laugh. "Guess it worked." Valera stirred and opened her eyes. She turned her head slightly, just enough to look at him. "Your vital signs improved within minutes of shared rest," she said. "The data surprised the observers." "Observers?" Ethan asked. "Yes," he sighed. "Of course." She sat up smoothly and stepped out of the bed, adjusting her uniform as if nothing unusual had happened. The station council authorized monitoring. They expected unpredictable behavior. And instead they got sleeping, Ethan said. "Controlled rest," she corrected. With restraint, Ethan slowly sat up. His side still ached, but it was manageable. "So what happens now? Another night of surprise bonding?" "That depends," Valera said. "On you." "On me?" He raised an eyebrow. "I thought aliens made all the rules." "In this case," she said, "there are no rules." She left the room shortly after, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts. The door slid shut, and the silence returned. Later that day, Ethan was cleared to walk the station under light supervision. He moved through the curved corridors, noticing things he had missed before. The way aliens avoided walking too close, how conversations happened at precise distances, how laughter was rare, quiet, controlled. He felt eyes on him everywhere. Word had spread. The human who shared rest with a tactical officer. The human who did not take advantage. The human who healed faster than expected. At a central observation hall, Ethan met Commander Threx, a tall reptilian being with armored scales and golden eyes. Threx studied him openly without shame. "You are the human," Threx said. "One of them," Ethan replied. "You confuse this station," Threx continued. "Our data predicted stress, dominance behavior, or fear response. None occurred." "Sorry to disappoint," Ethan said lightly. Threx's eyes narrowed. "Do not mistake curiosity for weakness." Ethan met his gaze without aggression. "Wouldn't dream of it." The commander turned away, clearly unsettled. That evening, Ethan was summoned to a council chamber. Valera stood inside along with several alien representatives. The air felt tense, thick with expectation. "The shared rest protocol will continue," one council member announced, "for observation purposes." Ethan glanced at Valera. She met his eyes briefly, then looked away. "And if I say no?" Ethan asked. The room went quiet. "You may refuse," the council said, "but your refusal will be noted." Ethan exhaled slowly. Humans had faced worse than alien disappointment. "I'll continue," he said. "Not for observation, because it helps." Valera's posture shifted slightly. Relief, maybe. That night they shared the room again. This time the silence felt different, less strange, more natural. Valera spoke first. "You were given a choice. I noticed. You did not need to agree." "I know," she looked at him. "Then why?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Because someone trusted me without a rule book. That doesn't happen often." Valera nodded slowly. "Trust is rare here. Rules protect us." "Rules also isolate you," Ethan said gently. She did not argue. Over the next few days, Ethan's presence on the station became less controversial and more influential. Alien crew members watched how he interacted, how he joked softly, respected space, yet stepped forward without fear when needed. A maintenance failure nearly caused a hull breach. While others froze, waiting for authorization, Ethan moved. He sealed a door manually, risking decompression. Others followed him, not because of orders but because they trusted his judgment. The breach was contained. Later, Valera approached him in a quiet corridor. "You act without permission," she said. "Someone has to," he replied. She studied him. "Your species thrives on initiative. Ours fears it." "Fear keeps you safe," Ethan said, "but it also keeps you stuck." That night the shared rest felt warmer, though still careful. Valera spoke more, about her homeworld, about training that punished deviation, about a childhood spent following lines drawn by others. "You sleep without fear," she said softly, "even among strangers." Ethan smiled faintly. Humans learned long ago that fear doesn't stop the night from coming. Outside the chamber, the observers argued. Some saw humans as destabilizing. Others saw potential. The data was undeniable. Efficiency improved when humans were involved. Morale shifted. Rules bent, but nothing broke. Something was changing. Valera began to realize it was not the bed, or the protocol, or even the human biology that mattered most. It was choice. And humans, she was learning, chose trust, even when no rules demanded it. The station lights dimmed again. Ethan drifted toward sleep, unaware that far beyond Kara's station, forces were already moving, watching this small experiment and deciding how dangerous humans might truly be. The warning came without sound. One moment, Kara's station moved in its usual calm rhythm. Lights glowed. Systems hummed. Crew followed rules and paths designed long ago. The next moment, every display across the station flashed a deep warning color that meant only one thing: external breach risk. Ethan was in a training bay, slowly testing his strength under medical limits. Valera stood nearby, watching his movements with quiet focus. The lights shifted and both of them froze. "What was that?" Ethan asked. Valera was already moving. "Combat alert." "This signal is not scheduled." The station's voice echoed through the halls. "Unidentified vessels approaching. Origin unknown. Defensive protocol pending council authorization." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Pending? How long does that take?" "Too long," Valera said. They ran. As they moved through the corridors, Ethan noticed something wrong. Crew members stood still at intersections, waiting for instructions. Some looked at their wrist displays, others at the ceiling lights. Everyone followed procedure. No one acted. "Why isn't anyone doing anything?" Ethan asked as they passed a frozen security team. "They are awaiting command confirmation," Valera replied, her voice tight. "And if confirmation comes late," she did not answer. They reached the observation deck. Through the wide, transparent barrier, Ethan saw the threat. 3 dark ships drifted toward the station, angular and scarred. No known alliance markings, no response to communication pings. "Raiders," Ethan guessed. "Possibly," Valera said. "Or worse." A council channel opened. Voices overlapped, calm but slow. Too many checks, too many permissions. Ethan stepped forward. "You're going to lose the outer ring if you wait." The council ignored him. Valera looked between the display and Ethan, her hands curled into fists. She had spent her life obeying these voices. Then one of the unknown ships fired. A pulse of energy struck the station's outer shield. The impact shook the deck. Lights flickered. A second hit followed, stronger. Panic rippled through the crew, but still no one moved without orders. "That's it," Ethan said. He turned to Valera. "I need access to station security." "That requires council override," she said automatically. He met her eyes. "No rules, remember." For a moment she hesitated. Everything she had been taught screamed against this choice. Then she remembered the bed, the quiet, the trust. She activated her wrist console and transferred limited command access. "Temporary authorization granted," the system said. Ethan exhaled. "Thank you." He moved fast. He opened channels, rerouted power, sealed vulnerable sections. He did not wait for approval. He acted on instinct, experience, and logic. "Security teams," he said into the open channel. "Form squads of 3. Do not wait for orders. Protect life first, systems second." Some aliens hesitated, others moved. The raider ships fired again. One shield segment failed. A section of the outer ring depressurized. Alarms screamed now. Ethan ran toward the breach with a mixed-species team behind him. Valera stayed close, her weapon ready. "This is madness," one alien whispered. "This is survival," Ethan replied. They reached the damaged section. Cold air pulled at them. Ethan sealed a bulkhead manually while others stabilized the field. It worked, but only barely. Suddenly, the hull cut open. Enemy boarding pods slammed into the station. The raiders poured in. Tall, armored beings with crude weapons and no hesitation. They moved with violence, not rules. Ethan felt the shift immediately. This enemy did not wait, did not pause, did not care. "Fall back," he shouted. "Draw them into narrow corridors." The aliens followed his lead. Valera fought beside him, precise and calm, her movements sharper than ever. She did not wait for permission now. She chose. The fighting spread through the station. Chaos replaced order. But something else changed too. Aliens began acting on instinct. Engineers sealed doors without command. Medics dragged the injured to safety without waiting for clearance. Security units adapted their formations, copying human tactics. The raiders expected fear and delay. They met resistance instead. In the central corridor, Ethan took a hit to the shoulder and staggered. Valera caught him before he fell. "You are injured again," she said. "I'll live," he replied, forcing himself upright. "Focus." They pushed forward, forcing the raiders back toward an airlock. One by one, the enemy fell or retreated. Finally, the remaining raiders fled, launching back into space. Silence followed, broken only by alarms and heavy breathing. The council channel opened again, voices shaken now. "The threat is contained," a council member said. "Human Ethan Hale, your actions were unauthorized." Ethan wiped blood from his arm. "You're welcome." There was no immediate response. Valera stood beside him, shoulders squared. If he had not acted, this station would be lost. The council was quiet for a long time. Later, in the medical chamber, Ethan lay back on the bed, exhausted. Valera sat nearby, her expression unreadable. "You defied your leaders," he said softly. Yes, she replied, I chose. And, she looked at him, I feel free. The station began repairs, data poured in. Casualties were far lower than predicted. Damage was contained. The reason was clear: adaptation, choice. Human influence. Far away, unseen observers recorded everything: the speed, the initiative, the way rules bent instead of breaking. A message was sent beyond known space. Humans do not wait, it said. They act. They inspire others to do the same. On Kara's station, Ethan closed his eyes, unaware that the galaxy had just learned something important. Humans were not dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they taught others how to choose. The station was quiet but not peaceful. Repairs hummed through the walls, automated systems ran tirelessly, and crew members moved with a new urgency. The threat had passed, but the echoes of what had happened still lingered. Every corner of Kara's station carried the memory of rapid decisions, improvisation, and human-led action. Aliens whispered in corridors about the human who acted without permission. Some were wary, some were impressed, all were unsettled. Ethan walked slowly through the central deck, his shoulder still stiff from the hit, his uniform streaked with soot. The weight of the last few days pressed on him, but he carried no regret. He had acted as a human always did, with choice, courage, and responsibility. That instinct, that refusal to wait for permission, had saved countless lives. Valera met him at the intersection of two curved corridors, standing perfectly still as if waiting. Her silver-blue skin reflected the soft repair lights, and faint lines along her arms glowed softly. She had changed. The tight, rigid posture she had carried for years was relaxed. She moved like someone who had realized she could bend without breaking. "They are starting to talk," she said, her voice low. "The council, the crew, even the observers. They are questioning old rules." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Good or bad questioning?" "Mostly good," she admitted. "Fear-based obedience is weakening. Your actions gave them hope, a way to act without waiting, to protect without control." He smiled faintly. "That's humanity. We don't wait for someone to tell us what's right, we figure it out and act." Valera studied him. "And no one stopped you." "I might have been stopped," Ethan said, "but I didn't wait. Sometimes waiting kills you faster than action." She nodded. "I understand now. You are what the legend said humans could be, unpredictable yet honorable." That night, as the station dimmed its lights for rest cycles, Ethan returned to the medical chamber. Valera was already there, pacing slowly, her hands clasped behind her back. She paused when he entered. "You are tired," she said. "I've been through worse," he replied, "but I won't deny I feel every bit of this." She moved to the bed and gestured. "Then lie down, rest. Recovery is not just physical." Ethan slid under the sheets. Valera followed, careful not to crowd him, yet her presence was steadying. For a moment the hum of the station, the soft glow of lights, and the memory of the recent battle faded around them. Only the quiet remained. "You trust me," she said softly. "I do," he replied. "Because I have no reason not to, and because you showed me trust first." She let out a quiet breath. "Trust is not common among my people. We rely on rules, procedures, and strict hierarchy. Deviating is seen as dangerous. And yet," she hesitated, her gaze falling to the sheets, "when I chose to follow you, I realized that choice itself carries strength." Ethan shifted slightly to face her. "Sometimes the rules make us weak. The humans I grew up with, we learn to rely on each other's judgment, not just orders. That's why we survive. That's why we endure." Valera's gaze softened. "You make it sound simple." "Simple," he said, shaking his head. "It's not, but it's worth it." The two of them lay in silence after that. It was not awkward, it was not forced. It was quiet understanding, the kind that comes when trust has been earned, not demanded. Over the next days, the effects of the battle became clearer. Aliens began to act differently around humans. Where once they had followed rigid hierarchy, now small acts of initiative became acceptable. Medical teams used human protocols for triage. Security units ran simulations based on human improvisation. Engineers adapted designs on the fly rather than waiting for approval. Valera observed these changes with quiet fascination. She spoke to Ethan frequently during shared rest cycles. "Your species, it changes others just by existing," she said one evening. "And yours?" he asked. "Are you changing too?" "I am learning," she admitted. To see that choice can be more powerful than obedience. That courage does not need commands. That trust can heal. Ethan smiled. "Then we're both learning." One evening, as the station rested under dim lights, an alert flashed across their displays. "Incoming transmission." Far away, unmarked, no origin identified. "More trouble?" Ethan asked. Valera shook her head. "Not trouble, a report." The transmission contained data from an unaligned system monitoring the battle at Kara Station. It documented the actions of humans in real time. Decision-making speed, initiative, ability to lead without formal authority. It praised humans for their adaptability, patience, and courage. Ethan leaned back. "Looks like someone outside noticed." Valera smiled faintly. "Your species' reputation is spreading. Others will start to consider different approaches." The two of them spent the rest of the night discussing the implications. Humans were not just survivors, they were teachers by example. The station, the council, even distant observers would have to reconsider old prejudices. Days passed, and routines slowly returned to normal. Ethan still shared rest cycles with Valera, though now it was less about healing and more about quiet conversation, reflection, and building understanding. Their bond, forged under unusual circumstances, was no longer protocol, it was choice. One morning, a council representative arrived at the chamber. He was small, blue-skinned, and nervously adjusting his uniform. "Ethan Hale," he said, bowing slightly. "Council would like to commend your actions. You saved lives. You changed outcomes that would have been disastrous." Ethan nodded quietly. "I did what needed to be done." The representative hesitated. The council also notes the human influence on tactical decisions has inspired debate. Some are considering reforms, replacing rigid rules with guided autonomy in certain areas. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Guided autonomy?" "Yes," the alien said. "Learning from humans. Allowing initiative when necessary. It is revolutionary." Valera leaned against the wall, a small smile on her lips. "I see." "Do you approve?" Ethan asked. She looked at him. "I approve what you taught us. Rules are useful, but not always. Trust can be stronger. Choice can be stronger. And humans lead by example." Ethan laughed softly. "That's a compliment, I think." "It is," she said simply. That night the two of them lay under the sheets, the soft glow of repair lights reflecting off Valera's skin. They spoke little. Words were unnecessary. Their presence, quiet and steady, said more than any protocol or rule could. Outside the chamber, the station hummed with new energy. Crew members moved with freedom tempered by responsibility. Engineers worked without endless approvals. Security units adapted instantly. Humanity's lesson was spreading, quietly but powerfully. Ethan closed his eyes. The weight of the past days, the battles, and the lessons finally gave way to rest. He felt the calm, steady heartbeat of the station, the quiet trust of Valera beside him, and a deep sense that change, real change, was possible. Valera whispered in the dark, almost to herself, "No rules, yet so much strength." Ethan smiled, drifting into sleep. Strength comes from choice, he thought, and from trusting others enough to act with them. Somewhere in the depths of Kara Station, unseen observers noted the difference. Humans did not command. Humans inspired, and the galaxy slowly was beginning to notice. The bed, the shared rest, the trust, it had become a small revolution. Not loud, not violent, but powerful. And in that quiet, glowing chamber, two beings, one human, one alien, rested together, having changed the course of a station. and perhaps far more beyond it. The days following the attack were filled with quiet rebuilding, reflection, and small victories. Kara Station had survived what many had predicted would be a disaster, and its crew, aliens and humans alike, had learned lessons that would echo far beyond its walls. The council met daily to discuss reforms, and whispers of human influence rippled through every corridor. Rules were no longer absolute. Decisions were no longer frozen until permission came. Initiative and trust had become new principles, quietly, undeniably proving their worth. Ethan walked through the central deck, his shoulder still stiff but healing. Repairs hummed softly around him, machines working automatically, and crew members moved with a newfound confidence. Many paused to glance at him as he passed, some with admiration, some with curiosity, but none stopped to judge. That was the subtle, quiet victory of his actions. Valera met him at the observation deck. The pale glow of her skin caught the light of the distant stars outside, and her eyes reflected not only relief but something deeper. Pride, perhaps, or acknowledgement. Ethan could never read all the nuances of alien emotion, but he had learned enough in the past days to see sincerity when it mattered. "The station is different," Valera said. "The crew, the council, they are reconsidering everything they thought they knew." Ethan nodded. They saw humans act, not because of orders, not because of rules, but because it was necessary. She smiled faintly. "Yes, your species teaches without speaking. Others follow because they trust, not because they are commanded." The room was silent for a moment, filled only with the hum of the station. Ethan realized he had grown accustomed to her presence beside him, steady, unflinching. It was no longer the strange protocol of shared rest that had brought them together. It was choice. "You changed more than the council," Valera said softly. "You changed me." Ethan's gaze met hers. "And you changed me too, by trusting even when there was no rule forcing you to." She looked down briefly, then back up, her eyes steady. "Trust is powerful. I had never felt it in this way before, not for anyone, not even for myself." Ethan reached out and placed a hand on hers. It was a human gesture, simple, without ceremony, and yet it carried meaning she understood. She did not recoil. She did not hesitate. She let him hold her hand. That small connection spoke louder than any council meeting or protocol ever could. Days passed, and life on the station slowly regained routine. Yet the difference was clear. Humans were now accepted as more than merely unpredictable visitors. They were respected. They were studied not for fear but for understanding, protocols adapted, rules bent when necessary. Aliens began to ask questions. Could they act without fear of punishment? Could they trust others enough to choose their own actions? Ethan and Valera continued their shared rest cycles, though now it was less about healing and more about conversation and reflection. Each night, they lay quietly in the dim glow of the chamber lights, speaking softly, learning about each other's worlds, each other's thoughts. Words were not always needed. Presence was enough. One evening, after the station had quieted and most crew members were in their own quarters, Valera spoke. "Ethan, the council has sent word. They wish for you to remain longer on Kara Station, to continue advising on protocols and reforms. They believe your influence is stabilizing." Ethan tilted his head. "You mean they want a human to help run the station?" "They want someone who can lead without breaking rules," she said. "Someone who can inspire choice." He laughed softly. "Sounds like a job humans invented long ago." Valera's lips curved into a small smile. "It is, and yet you do it naturally." Ethan leaned back, watching the soft lights above. "I didn't do it to impress anyone. I did it because someone needed it done. Sometimes that's all it takes." "But the effect," she said quietly, "is extraordinary. Humans do not just survive, they make others survive too. And when trust is chosen rather than forced, it spreads." He nodded, understanding fully. The council, the station, the crew, none of them had acted by compulsion. They had acted by trust, by seeing a human choose to do the right thing without waiting for orders. That ripple of choice would continue quietly across worlds. Valera shifted closer, careful not to crowd him, yet close enough that he felt the warmth of her presence. "I do not need rules to stay beside you," she said softly. "I choose to." Ethan's breath caught slightly. That choice, made freely without pressure or protocol, meant more than any rule could. "And I choose you," he replied simply. "Not because of protocol, not because of obligation, because you stood with me when others would have waited, because I trust you." Silence followed, comfortable and steady. They lay side by side, listening to the quiet hum of the station, feeling the weight of all that had happened, and knowing that the galaxy beyond Kara's station was now a little different because of the choices they had made. Later, as they rested, an alert came across the displays. A fleet from a distant system sent a message. It was brief. "Human influence confirmed. Initiative proven. We are reconsidering our protocols." Ethan smiled faintly. "Looks like the galaxy noticed." Valera reached for his hand again. "And now we know. Trust, choice, courage, they are stronger than fear, stronger than rules." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "Humans have always known that. It's why we endure, why we survive, why we inspire." For the first time, Valera laughed softly. It was not loud or exaggerated, but it carried a lightness she had never felt. "Then perhaps humans are exactly what the galaxy needs." "And perhaps," Ethan said, looking out at the distant stars, "the galaxy is exactly what humans can help shape." In the quiet of the chamber, the two of them lay side by side. They did not need words. They did not need rules. They had choice, trust, and understanding. And that was enough. Beyond the walls of Kara's station, other worlds were already beginning to learn the same lesson. Humans did not simply follow rules. Humans acted, adapted, and inspired. They taught others to do the same. And in that quiet revolution across stars and systems, humanity's influence spread, not through force, not through conquest, but through courage, choice, and the simple, undeniable power of trust. Valera turned her head slightly, watching Ethan as he drifted toward sleep. "One bed, no rules," she whispered again. This time it was not protocol, not observation, not healing. It was a promise, a recognition of trust and choice of two beings who had faced danger, defied expectation, and emerged stronger together. Ethan, half asleep, smiled faintly. "And it worked," he murmured. "Yes," Valera said, her voice barely more than a whisper. "It worked, and it will continue." Outside, the stars shone quietly, distant and eternal, bearing witness to the small acts of courage, choice, and trust that had begun to reshape a corner of the galaxy. Inside the chamber, two beings rested together, knowing that the galaxy would never be the same, and that sometimes one small act of trust could ripple across the universe. And so, Kara's station, once a place of rigid rules and hesitation, became a symbol. A symbol that humans could teach, inspire, and endure. That courage and choice were stronger than fear. That trust, freely given and freely received, could change the course of worlds. And in that simple truth, Ethan and Valera slept, side by side in one bed, no rules and infinite possibilities.